Hello. I know, I've done it again. I have valid reasons though. I was in the south of France and Switzerland for 2 weeks, which was absolutely beautiful and amazing, and the first time I've traveled in ages, so that was really cool. I also had a viral cold and felt like death at some point, so that wasn't really great, and I had a mild existential crisis about my life and what I'm doing and whether anything I do even has any point, and do the things I think and express even matter, or am I just a narcissist who's overly self-important? Anyway, so because of all that, I have not posted in a while, but I've returned to the land of the confident and the loving, so I'm very excited to express more unimportant opinions like the walking god complex that I am. So I'm a bit late to the party, but there's this trend that's been going around for a couple months now. When I say a couple months, it's probably been about half a year, where very intelligent, educated, well-spoken people have publicly stated that they are not interested in participating in our capitalist 9-to-5 world anymore, and have opted to make money online through investments, through several streams of passive income, fighting capitalism with capitalism, as it were. I think this concept is quite an interesting one. It defies this long-standing belief that your job or your career is your entire identity and should be your largest source of fulfillment. To dream of labor is the ultimate capitalist dream, and if you aren't enjoying your job, then you just aren't doing life right. In contrast, the dream of our generation, at least from my perspective, is to be your own boss, set your own work times and deadlines, and above all, be financially free. And the people promoting this new trend are encouraging others on an individual level to quit their current jobs and fulfill this ideal lifestyle. Overall, a really inspiring message, and I really do think that we as a societal whole should reevaluate labor conditions, hours and wages. We are taught from a young age that it's normal to work this hard and receive so little compensation for it, to contribute to something that we don't believe in. And this new mindset, not dreaming of labor, shows everyone another option that they may not have even realized that they had. I'm sure many a human has been inspired enough by this movement to follow their dreams if they have the means and quit their job that they hate and start a career as like an influencer or something. The movement on the surface opposes typical hustle culture and celebrates individual freedom. It is unfortunately also incredibly unrealistic for those who aren't raking in £5,000 a month from AdSense on YouTube. I'm just gonna put myself forward here as an example. I've been supporting myself financially since I left high school from the age of 18, and I'm now 21. In that time, I've worked a variety of low-income jobs. I have worked as a bartender at many a pub, a server, a waitress, an au pair, a sales assistant, a charity street fundraiser, to pay the bills, feed myself, maintain my existence, really. Believe it or not, none of those were actually really ideal dream jobs for me. They all had their fun moments, don't get me wrong, but none of these jobs were things that I was passionate about. They were a means to an end. They gave me the freedom to travel a bit, to live in different places, and for that I'm incredibly grateful, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to make it sound like I've led a miserable life, but I wasn't really doing these jobs because I had a choice. I had no other possible way of earning income at the time. I remember this one time I was working as a server at this vegan restaurant. I had been there a week, and the other girl that I was training with didn't show up for shift one day. It turned out she just decided to not come back because it wasn't her thing, and she didn't like it. Totally fine. She was lucky enough to be able to do that, as she still lived with her family and she didn't have any financial responsibilities. But I was just so incredibly jealous that she could do that. I wasn't really enjoying the job either, to be honest, but I didn't have the option of quitting because I didn't like it. And I was envious that it was so simple for her, like, oh, not my thing, I'll just take my time and find something else more suited to me. Reflecting on it now, good for her, and I genuinely hope she found a job that made her happy. But I think something that everyone needs to keep in mind when spreading the don't dream of labor gospel is that some people have to do the job they're doing. They can't just quit. And a lot of ways suggested in these videos on how to earn passive income and things such as that just aren't realistic for people who aren't earning above a certain amount. When you're living paycheck to paycheck every month, you can't set £500 aside to invest. I'm pretty sure most people don't dream of labor, they just do it out of necessity. Which brings me to my next point. A large number of the people talking about this are in a position of relative privilege and are oblivious to the wider issues at hand, such as worker inequality. There is a reason so many people watch these videos, are drawn in by the titles and the thumbnails that suggest alternative ways to make money. They're searching for options that mean they don't have to do what they're doing anymore. And why is that? Well, I'll tell you. First of all, as I said previously, some people really don't enjoy their job but do it out of necessity. Second of all, low wages and the unequal distribution of income. Often the people who work the longest hours performing the most laborious jobs earn the least, sitting on minimum wage. The reality is minimum wage, wherever you are, is most of the time not a true to life living wage. I saw a few statistics the other day that were quite interesting, and it basically said that almost half of UK households in poverty live in working households. If you're earning a living wage and still in poverty, that's not a living wage. Rather than focusing on the problem as an individual one, I think society in general should be practicing collectivism if we actually want the structure of it to change fundamentally. By redistributing wealth and putting money back into society, other individuals can benefit and everyone could have more time and financial freedom to do whatever they want. I know there are some businessmen somewhere retching as I say this, as to some of them the mere idea of redistributing money is equivalent to me saying that we should kill all children under the age of 2. When I first saw the term I don't dream of labor, I, like a few others, read it as meaning I don't like my job but I do it anyway. This is really common and it should be normalized. Work isn't your entire life, I hope, and you can do things that you enjoy outside of work, such as taking dancing classes or coding, and you can accept that this isn't your dream job but you're going to do it. This is the case for a lot of people who have had to settle for something so that they can provide for their families and themselves. The reality is it's pretty difficult to get your ideal job, especially if you don't have the right experience. I'm going to use myself as an example again here, surprise surprise. I'm now very lucky to be working in administration for a very cool charity, and no, obviously that is not my ultimate goal and ambition in life, but as someone who wants to work in the charity sector long term, it's a foot in the door, and it's the best job I've had so far, hands down. I would be doing myself in my previous video about bragging to inspire an injustice if I just chalked this all down to luck. I worked fucking hard to get this job. I literally spent 2 hours every day for like 2 months applying to jobs I wanted and thought I had quantifiable experience for. I got to quite a few interview stages and I would just prepare pages and pages of questions tailored to the organization and my answers to them, and I would memorize it all before each interview so I felt like fully prepared and confident. I really did try, but my point is in all of this is that the reason I got rejected so many times after making it to so many interview stages was because I didn't have the right experience. So as much as I wanted it and as much as I knew that I would do a good job in that role, I never had a shot at proving myself despite my obvious enthusiasm. And once again, that is the case for many people out there. Most sectors and markets are incredibly competitive. Sure, someone may want to work in this specific sector or this specific company, but if they don't have the right experience for it, it's very difficult to get in a lot of the time and they're stuck in this like awkward state. Another point is some people don't know what they want to do. They don't have dream jobs. And in my mind, these people also fall under the category of this isn't my dream job, but I do it anyway. So many people, especially now that it's becoming a bit more common, are shamed and termed misguided and pitied for not having like these massive career ambitions or not being certain about what they want to do. Obviously, there are different reasons for different people. Some have choice paralysis because there are so many options out there and career paths, and how do you know which is the right one? Huh? How do you know? Others genuinely have no clue what they feel passionate about in a professional capacity and just take a job to earn some money and make a living. Once again, this is all very normal and very acceptable and it should be treated that way. And that's all I really had to say on that point, because there's this weird embarrassment about not knowing what you want to do, and I think that should be destigmatized. Who gives a shit if you only find your passion in your 30s? People shouldn't be shamed for taking some time to figure it out. It's a complex world out there with borderline endless possibilities. In a lot of these videos, the person often knocks and demonizes 9-to-5 desk jobs, which I didn't really like. Sure, it isn't for everyone, but at the moment, like, I love it. It's such a relief after doing years of shift work, working weekends and late nights with such little monetary gain and stressing over whether I have enough shifts and how much that money will add up to. It's like a fun game of Russian roulette. Like, hey, will I be able to afford food this week, or do I once again have to dig into my meager savings? Yet, it's not as fun as it may sound. So to be working Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, just typing on a computer, knowing I have a steady income every month is glorious. I have time to do my own things now. I have weekends to see people. I have my life back. I can plan in advance for things because I have a set schedule. Another thing that's glazed over in these videos is that becoming an entrepreneur is so much work. It takes late nights and weekends and is probably 10 times more time consuming than a normal job because you really have to set yourself up for success before you can sit back and reap the rewards of your labor. There can be a lot of uncertainty and stress because you have no set income and no way of knowing how successful you'll be 6 months or a year down the line. Some people just don't want to do that, invest their time and their money and take that risk, and that's okay. You shouldn't feel ashamed or guilty for working 9 to 5 in an office. It doesn't make you a sheep or whatever. And just as equally, you shouldn't feel ashamed if you do shift work in a pub or a bar or a shop. Having worked in customer-facing roles, I know those people are treated like absolute trash most of the time, and it's difficult and it's draining, but that kind of work is just as valuable as someone who works in an office. I know I went through a stage of feeling so inferior to the people in London marching around in suits off to their next meeting while I'm just standing there serving coffee in an apron. That's internal classism, I've learned, and it's kind of shitty and also kind of nonsensical. If we've learned anything during this pandemic, I'm not sure some people have learned anything, but if the majority of us have learned anything, it's that essential workers, key workers, those at the forefront of our nation keeping it running are not the bankers and the lawyers, but the sales assistants and warehouse workers and truck drivers and healthcare workers. These are important jobs that literally keep the country and the world running. No one should ever feel judged for the work they do to earn money. Unless you're an assassin or something, I feel like you could kind of utilize those skills for something else. Another thing that's widely encouraged in the I don't dream of labor trend is monetizing your hobbies. I don't know which of you have been swept up in this hurricane, but listen to me when I say this because I'm only going to say it once. You don't have to capitalize on your hobbies. I mean, if you want to, go for it. But very often, turning your hobby into a full-time job can detract from the joy you initially found in it. It used to be a respite from the rest of your life, and now it has become your life. It works for some people, it doesn't for many others. There's a chance you might be falling into hustle culture's greedy paws, depending on your motivations for monetizing a skill. It's obviously a nuanced issue. It definitely differs for everyone, but I think there's so much pressure from the outside world to make sure you're getting something out of what you're doing. Like, if there's no financial gain, that's just a waste of time. What even is the point of you knitting for hours if you don't sell knitted decorative mushrooms online? But if you take a step back and stop looking at your hobby through the lens of how it can be financially beneficial and rather focus on the mental and emotional value it offers, you may find that you want your hobby to stay just that, a hobby, and that's completely fine. There are a lot of successful YouTubers who have gone back to normal 9-to-5 jobs because they found they no longer enjoyed making videos when it was their full-time job. It turned something they loved into something stressful, and they had less creative freedom over what they were making because the money they earned on that video was their livelihood, so they had to appeal to as large an audience as possible. Also, just a side note, like being an influencer or a YouTuber or an investor in cryptocurrency or whatever isn't everyone's ultimate dream. So I think it's a bit harsh to shame those staying in their current jobs and not pursuing a better lifestyle when it probably isn't that person's version of a better lifestyle. Ultimately, money is essential to life due to the society in which we live, but at the same time, don't sacrifice yourself and your sanity for your career or some job title or some corporation that doesn't even care about you. You're worthy without all of that. Your job title or your class, despite how some people may act, does not define who you are as a person, and it is not your singular personality trait. You are a complex, intelligent, and talented human being, and that's all you need to be. Sorry for getting all soppy, but it's just how I feel. I can't help it. So, final call. Is the I don't dream of labor trend good or bad? Well, call me Switzerland, but I'm gonna sit on the fence with this one. I think in some ways it has done some good because it started the conversation around labor laws and workers' inequality and the capitalist society we reside in. By generating that conversation, we're more likely to create some kind of change. Hopefully. Maybe. Eventually. It's also, for some of the reasons I aforementioned, not so good. It's a trend started by people who aren't starting off their business or whatever with financial difficulties, and the movement therefore excludes a lot of people. It's impractical and frankly unattainable for many. I think, not that I run it or anything, but I think the focus of the movement should be less on the individual and more on a collective resurgence of the way labor and working life is implemented. I think we could create a greater scope for change and make people's lives better or something. But what do I know? I'm just some 21-year-old who's only experienced 3 years of working life, who thinks the solution to everything is to just print more money. For anyone angrily typing away in the comment section, that is a joke. I repeat, that is a joke. I know that would cause economic collapse. Thank you for listening. As usual, this does not have to be a one-sided conversation. Please feel free to share your thoughts. Please subscribe if you so wish, and have a great day. And also have a great life if we don't speak again.